lending program and also considered a fresh resilience and sustainability facility lending program of $1.3 billion for Pakistan. As an active and responsible member country, India raised concerns over the efficacy of IMF programs in case of Pakistan, given its poor track record, and also on the possibility of misuse of debt financing funds for state-sponsored cross-border terrorism. Pakistan has been a prolonged borrower from the IMF with a very poor track record of implementation and of adherence to the IMF's program conditions. In the 35 years since 1989, Pakistan has had disbursements from the IMF in 28 years. In the last 5 years, since 2019, there have been 4 IMF programs. Had the previous program succeeded in putting in place a sound macroeconomic policy environment, Pakistan would not have approached the fund for yet another bailout program. India pointed out that such a track record calls into question either the effectiveness of the IMF program designs in the case of Pakistan, or their monitoring or their implementation by Pakistan. Pakistan's military's deeply entrenched interference in economic affairs poses significant risks of policy slippages and reversal of reforms. Even when a civilian government is in power now, the army continues to play an outsized role in domestic politics and extends its tentacles deep into the economy. In fact, a 2021 UN report described military-linked businesses as the largest conglomerate in Pakistan. The situation has not changed for the better. Rather, the Pakistani army now plays a leading role in the Special Investment Facilitation Council of Pakistan. India flagged the Pakistan chapter of the IMF report on evaluation of prolonged use of IMF resources. The report noted that there was widespread perception and political consideration in the implementation of IMF funds. This is the position India has taken at the IMF. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Devika, this format is unreadable and probably not serving any purpose. So let's put out the information on our screens so that it can be readable up to the end of the statement, which is a 1.5 page statement, which has just been issued on behalf of the Ministry of Finance from the Press Information Bureau of the Government of India. Now, this IMF meeting, of course, is happening in the backdrop of active engagement. It's a hot zone on the Indo-Pakistan border and, of course, on the LOC. It is not unreasonable to presume that Pakistan, which is now devoid of state resources with its foreign exchange reserves at just over $10 billion, if it were to receive funds of $2.3 billion, that would constitute an additional 20% to the kitty of Pakistan, and it would not be unreasonable to presume that in the exigent circumstances, a large part of that kitty would actually be used to not only fund terrorism, but wage war across the border against India. This is a very serious matter. Now, the IMF, ladies and gentlemen, has something called the executive, and the executive board of the IMF votes on these programs. Around 16.5% of the votes are controlled by one party. Remember, it's a Bretton Woods institution. So 16.5% of votes are controlled by the United States, 6% of the votes are controlled by Japan, another 6% are controlled by China. Then there are groups of countries, including the Netherlands, Romania, Ukraine, Montenegro, Luxembourg, Israel, Georgia, Cyprus. This first group controls about 5.5%. Germany controls 5.5%. Then the second group of Colombia, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, a lot of Central American countries, including Spain and Mexico, which are the larger countries here, control 4.5%. Then the third group of countries, which includes Malaysia, Nepal, Philippines, Singapore, Thailand, Vietnam, control 4% of the votes. Then the fourth group, which includes Italy, Portugal, Greece, control 4%. France controls 4%. The United Kingdom controls 4%. Australia and its nearby countries, including New Zealand, control about 4%. Then Canada, the Caribbean, Ireland control about 3.5%. Then the next group of countries, which is the Nordic countries, Finland, Iceland, Latvia, Lithuania, Norway, Sweden, Estonia, Denmark, control 3% of the votes. The next group of countries, Australia, Czechia, Hungary, Kosovo, Slovak Republic, Slovenia, Turkey, come together in a group that controls 3% of the vote. The next group is Guyana, Haiti, Nicaragua, Panama, Trinidad, Tobago, Ecuador. They control about 3%. India is in a group with Bangladesh, Bhutan and Sri Lanka, and our representative Harish Chandra Pahat, 3% of the votes we control. Then the next group of countries is from Eastern Europe as well as Central Asia. So Kazakhstan, the Kyrgyz Republic. This group also includes Switzerland. This controls just under 3%. Russia controls about 2.5% of the votes. The next group, Bahrain, Egypt, Iraq, Jordan. So a lot of Middle Eastern countries. This includes the UAE, controls 2.5% of the votes. Then the mixture of African countries. This is the group in which Pakistan is. They are together with Morocco, Tunisia, Libya, Iran, Ghana and Algeria. This group has about 2.5% of the votes. Saudi Arabia in its singular entity controls 2% of the votes. Then a group of African countries including South Africa and Zimbabwe control just under 2%. More of the South American countries including Argentina, Chile control 1.5% of the votes. Then a whole other bunch of countries including Mauritania, Nigeria, Senegal, Sierra Leone, African countries control 1.5%. Then Burundi, Chad, Congo, Djibouti, Kenya, Rwanda, South Sudan control 1.4% of the vote. Now that's the breakup. Now the large chunk of these Bretton Woods institutions, as you well know, are controlled by the United States. They have 16.5% of the votes. So if the United States wants to make this happen, they can make it happen. If they don't want to make this happen, they can prevent it from happening, and that's where we stand. General Parayar, let us not underestimate that this is crucially, pivotally important to the Pakistanis. After they've got out of the FATF, they desperately need this money. They desperately need this money. Now it's pretty much up to Washington whether they get it or not.
$3 billion, and any money which is coming earlier, it was for the climate and other stabilizing the economy, but ultimately it goes against us only. That is there. And the US policies is very dubious. They always believe in check and balance. But yes, this time our external minister and all ministry has done a good homework for a very long, after these meetings are well planned. So India is pushing that Pakistan should not get this loan. Ultimately, the US has a major power. How much is the President Trump is convinced? We yet to see. Probably the visits of our Commerce Minister, Mr. Piyush Goyal, to handle and discuss about the tariff sequences between US and all. Everything matters. It is not simply that you are going and negotiating in the IMF. With all multiple diplomatic channels we have exercised, and it's a very open question whether the Pakistan will get this $2 billion hands out or not. US predominantly, but I am very optimistic that our diplomacy should prevail upon, and Pakistan should deny this grant of $2 billion.
You'll be surprised, sir. You'll be surprised that they'll probably get the money or get a large percentage of the money. Okay, General Joshi, if they were to, is it reasonable for us to presume that a substantial chunk of this money will be diverted to waging war against India?
Question, I am very certain in my mind they have been doing it in past. Whatever the aids they have got is been coming and is finding its way to the terrorists and the weapon that they are using, these terrorists. The